In the north of Iran, on a high peak of the Alborz mountain range, an elderly Maulvi lived alone in a wooden house. It was early morning. As soon as the Maulvi stepped out of his house, he saw a very beautiful and young girl standing at the edge of a high cliff, where below lay a drop of thousands of feet. The scene was so shocking that the Maulvi, without thinking, ran quickly towards her. Just as the girl was about to jump down, the Maulvi suddenly came from behind, grabbed her arm, and pulled her back towards him. The girl jerked his hand away and said angrily, "How dare you stop me? Who are you to interfere in my life?" She ran towards the edge again as if to jump. The Maulvi ran again and this time held her hand even more tightly. The girl tried her best to free herself, but the Maulvi did not let go. The elderly Maulvi said gently, "What are you doing? At least tell me. Maybe I can help you." With tears in her eyes, the girl said, "You think you can help me? My husband has gone missing, and even my own family has thrown me out of the house. I have no shelter, no support." The Maulvi stared at her for a while, then held her wrist and said, "Come with me." The girl asked fearfully, "Where?" The Maulvi only said, "Just come." Holding her hand without another word, he began walking along the high mountain path. The girl kept asking, "Let go of my hand. Where are you taking me? At least tell me." But the Maulvi said nothing. He just held her hand and kept walking silently. After a while, they reached the door of his wooden house. He opened the door and began to take the girl inside. The girl said, "What is this place? Whose house is this? Why are you bringing me here?" The Maulvi, after entering, let go of her hand and closed the door, bolting it from inside. The girl panicked and shouted, "What are you doing? Why did you lock the door? Why did you bring me here? Why won't you say anything?" The Maulvi remained silent, just kept looking at her. Then suddenly he opened the door and stepped outside, bolting it from the outside too. The girl started screaming and banging the door. "Why have you locked me inside? Where are you going?" But the Maulvi didn't listen and kept climbing toward the mountains. Now night had fallen. The girl was alone inside the house. She had been banging the door all day and was now exhausted, but there was no one to hear. Outside, the darkness deepened. Suddenly, she heard the sound of the door opening. She ran towards it and saw the Maulvi entering. The girl, now angry, said, "Why did you bring me here? Where do you go all day leaving me locked up?" The Maulvi came close to her and said very calmly, "Don't be afraid. Consider this house your own. From now on, you will stay with me. You don't need to go anywhere else." There was a strange shine in his eyes, as if something was going on in his heart. The girl hesitated and said, "How can I stay with you? My own family threw me out of the house. Why are you being so kind to me?" The Maulvi gently kept talking to her until he convinced the girl. The girl, already broken by life and with no place to go, agreed to stay there. The Maulvi gave her a cot and said, "Sleep here." The girl lay down and fell asleep. The Maulvi also lay down on his bed, but he couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the girl all night. "How beautiful she is. How innocent and broken," he kept saying to himself. Morning came. The Maulvi went to the girl and looked at her face for a long time. Suddenly the girl's eyes opened. She quickly adjusted her sheet and asked in surprise, "What happened? Why are you here?" The Maulvi softly said, "It's morning. Wake up." The girl sat up. Just then the Maulvi went toward the door, stepped outside, and locked the door from outside. The girl panicked, ran to the door, and shouted loudly, "Why did you lock the door again? What's the matter?" But the Maulvi didn't respond. He started climbing toward the mountains. The girl kept banging the door from inside, kept shouting, but the Maulvi was already gone. The day ended. Night had fallen. The girl was alone in the house, scared, sitting silently. Suddenly, she heard the sound of the door opening. She ran toward it and saw the Maulvi entering the house. Angrily, the girl said, "What are you doing? You lock me up all day, then leave without saying anything?" The Maulvi looked at her silently. Then he said, "Nothing, just one unfinished task I had to take care of." The girl looked at him in surprise. "What task?" The Maulvi avoided the question and said, "It's night now. Lie down in your bed. I'll sleep too." The girl kept thinking, but without saying anything, she lay on her bed. The Maulvi lay down too, but he couldn't sleep. In the middle of the night, the Maulvi got up from his bed and went near the girl. He kept looking at her face for a long time. Then he recited something and blew on her. As soon as the girl turned to her side, the Maulvi quickly ran back to his bed and lay down silently. The Maulvi whispered to himself, "Tomorrow I will take her up the mountain. There, my purpose will be fulfilled." Thinking this, he fell asleep. Morning came. The Maulvi went to the girl and woke her up. "It's morning, get up." The girl sat up. The Maulvi sat beside her and said, "You must be getting bored staying inside all day. Let's go for a walk in the mountains." Before the girl could say anything, the Maulvi held her hand and started walking towards the mountains. They walked for a long time. Eventually, they reached the same high peak, where he used to go alone after locking her up for 2 days. When they reached that high cliff, the Maulvi said to the girl, "Lie down here for a bit. I'll be right back." The girl asked in surprise, "Where are you going? And why are you asking me to lie down here?" The Maulvi deflected and said, "You must be very tired. That's why I asked. Just rest for a bit. Lie down flat on the ground. Stretch your arms and legs straight." The girl found the Maulvi's words very strange. She lay down on the ground, hesitantly and with fear. The Maulvi said, "Now close your eyes." The girl said, "Why should I close my eyes?" The Maulvi replied, "I said, just close your eyes." The girl had no idea what was going on. Still, somehow she closed her eyes. The Maulvi slowly came close to her and sat near her. He kept looking at the girl for a long time. Then he recited something and blew on her. The girl still lay there, eyes closed. The Maulvi quietly got up and slowly began to descend the mountain. He returned home and lay down on his bed. Sometime later, when the girl noticed there was no sound, she opened her eyes and looked around. There was no one. She called out to the Maulvi, raised her voice. But there was no reply. The girl sat there alone at the top of the mountain. Night began to fall. Darkness grew deeper, and the girl sat there scared and trembling, waiting for the Maulvi. Then suddenly she heard the sound of someone approaching on the mountain. She looked down and saw the Maulvi once again climbing up toward her. When the Maulvi reached her, the girl was filled with anger. She said, "What is this you're doing? Sometimes you lock me inside the house. Sometimes you bring me to the mountains and make me lie on the ground. What is all this? Why don't you tell me anything?" The Maulvi didn't say a word. He just kept looking at her. Then he held the girl's hand and began walking back toward the house. It was very late at night. Once home, the Maulvi said to the girl, "Go lie down on your bed." The girl lay on her bed, but even while trying to sleep, she kept thinking, "Why does this Maulvi behave so strangely every day? Is this all some kind of trap?" Thinking these thoughts, she finally drifted off to sleep. The Maulvi also lay down on his bed and fell asleep. During the night, the girl felt as if someone was near her. She slightly opened her eyes and saw that the Maulvi was standing at her bedside. The Maulvi stood there for a long time, looking at her. Then he recited something again and blew on her. The girl said nothing but pretended to sleep and quietly observed everything. In the morning, the Maulvi came to the girl and woke her up. The girl got up. Then the Maulvi said to her, "Come on, let's go outside for a walk." The girl, already scared, now suspicious of the Maulvi's actions, said, "No, I'm not going anywhere." But the Maulvi forcefully grabbed her hand and led her back up the mountain. After climbing the mountain, the Maulvi said to the girl, "Now lie down on your stomach here." The girl screamed, "Are you crazy or what? Are you in your right mind? Sometimes you lock me inside the house. Sometimes you bring me to the mountain and ask me to lie down flat. And now you want me to lie face down? What is all this? Why don't you explain anything?" The Maulvi said, "I told you, just lie down on your stomach." The girl said, "I will never lie face down now. You seem completely insane. What kind of strange things are you making me do?" The Maulvi replied, "You'll understand everything soon. Just listen to me one last time. Lie face down here on this mountain." The girl said, "What will I understand? What does lying face down even mean? This is all very strange." The Maulvi replied, "This too is a secret, which I can't tell you right now, but just know this, what's better for you." The girl kept listening to the Maulvi's words in amazement. Then she said, "All right, fine. What else can I do now? I'll agree to this too." The girl lay face down on the same mountain peak. The Maulvi said, "Now stretch your arms and legs completely straight and close your eyes." Suddenly the Maulvi came and sat near her. Then he recited something and blew on the girl. Then the Maulvi said to the girl, "Stand up, but keep your eyes closed." The girl said, "What are you going to do now?" "Why shouldn't I open my eyes?" The Maulvi said, "I told you, just don't open your eyes." The girl stood up there on the mountain peak, with her eyes still closed, and the Maulvi slowly started descending the mountains and went back home to lie on his bed. For a long time the girl stood there with her eyes closed. Then she called out, "Where are you? Can I open my eyes now?" But there was no reply. Then the girl opened her eyes and there was no one around. The girl screamed in anger, "This Maulvi isn't right. Why did I trust him? It's not right to stay with him anymore. He seems completely insane. Who knows what he's planning?" The girl sat down right there and waited for the Maulvi. Night fell. During the night, the Maulvi climbed the same mountain peak again and came to the girl. When the girl saw the Maulvi, she said angrily, "You left me here again. Why don't you tell me anything? Why are you doing all this? What do you want from me?" The Maulvi looked into the girl's eyes for a moment, then said, "I spent 2 days here, and you've spent 2 days too. Now it's the final night. This last night. We both have to spend together on this mountain." The girl asked in shock, "Why? Why should I spend the night with you on this mountain? Are you in your right mind? What are you even saying? What are your intentions? Everything about this feels so strange." The Maulvi said, "If we just spend this one last night together, everything will be fine. Please listen to me." The girl said, "What will be fine? Why don't you explain anything? From the very beginning, your intentions haven't felt right. Either you're crazy or you're trying to make me crazy. Now what do you plan to do with me by keeping me on this mountaintop tonight?" The Maulvi said, "You'll understand everything. Just spend one night." The girl, already exhausted by the Maulvi's daily strange behavior and changing stories, finally gave in and said angrily, "Fine, I'll spend this night here, but in the morning I'll leave your house. I can't stay with you any longer." The Maulvi said, "All right, just get through tonight. If you spend this night with me, you won't want to leave me yourself." The girl said, "What are you even saying? Are your intentions really pure?" The Maulvi said, "You'll know tonight." Then the Maulvi said to the girl, "Now, just like I'm lying down on the ground, you lie down the same way." The Maulvi lay on the ground. The girl also lay on the ground. The Maulvi said to the girl, "Close your eyes and sleep." The girl closed her eyes and went to sleep. The Maulvi also slept there. In the last part of the night, when the sun was about to rise, he once again blew on the girl. Then the Maulvi woke the girl up and said, "Stand up, but keep your eyes closed." The girl said, "Now what is this new madness?" The girl said, "You're not going to leave me here again, are you?" "I won't close my eyes this time. The last 2 times I closed my eyes, you left me right here and walked away." The Maulvi said, "No, this time that won't happen. Keep your eyes closed." The girl, now tired and frustrated, said angrily, "Fine, all right." She closed her eyes. And just as she did, she suddenly felt someone come from behind and grab her, placing both hands over her eyes. On that high peak, there was no one except the Maulvi and the girl, so she realized it had to be the Maulvi who grabbed her from behind. She shouted in anger, "What is this? Why are you holding me like this?" But there was no response. The girl shouted even louder, "Let me go! What are you doing?" But someone kept standing behind her, holding her eyes shut with both hands. The girl quickly pulled herself free, and when she turned around, it wasn't the elderly Maulvi. It was a young man. The girl was stunned when she saw him, and she began shouting loudly, This is my husband." She ran and threw herself into the young man's arms. She was screaming with joy. "How did you get here?" "I searched everywhere for you. Where had you gone?" The girl's happiness knew no bounds. She kept hugging her husband again and again, crying uncontrollably. Then suddenly, the girl looked around and said, "Where did that old Maulvi go? Do you know him? Did he bring you here?" The young man listened to everything his wife was saying, but he didn't say a word. He just held her hand and said, "Come with me." He brought her to the same wooden house where the Maulvi used to live. The girl looked around and said, "This is that same Maulvi's house." But he said nothing. The girl asked again, "Why have you brought me here?" The husband replied, "You used to live here before, so stay here again." The girl looked at her husband in shock. "How do you know that?" Her husband smiled and said, "I know everything. This is the Maulvi's house. But first, you tell me, what kind of man was that Maulvi?" The girl said, "I don't know if he was good or bad, but he did very strange things." Her husband kept smiling at her and said, "We can't call someone bad until we truly know them. Maybe he had a reason, a secret, or a helpless situation behind all that." The girl said, "Yes, but what kind of helplessness?" Then her husband said, "One day you came here to jump off that cliff and end your life. It was the Maulvi who saved you. He brought you into this house, and every night he did something strange. He would recite something and blow it on you. Sometimes he'd disappear from the house and lock you inside. Other times, he would take you up the mountain and make you lie on the rocks." The girl was stunned, hearing all this from her husband's mouth. "How do you know all this?" "This is exactly what happened to me." Her husband said, "I know everything. But before I tell you more, don't you want to know where I had gone?" The girl said, "Yes." "Where did you go?" The husband replied, "Do you remember that day when I stepped out of the house and never came back?" The girl said, "Yes. I'll never forget that day." Her husband said, "That very day while I was coming back home, I met a girl on the road. She seemed very mysterious, and she told me, 'Marry me.' I said angrily, 'What are you saying? I'm already married. My wife is waiting for me.' There was something about that girl's face that scared me. She wasn't an ordinary girl. When I rejected her, she recited something and blew on me. And in just a moment, I turned from a young man into an old man. After that, I ran toward home. But when I reached the door, a thought struck me. In this condition, you wouldn't recognize me. How could I face you looking like an old man? So I turned back and ran to the same place where I had met that girl, but she was nowhere to be found. Tired and hopeless, as I was returning, I met an old sage on the way. I told him everything. He said, "This is black magic, but with pure intentions and truth, even this can't last long." He told me that to break this magic I would have to live alone in a deserted place. And if my wife found me there on her own, and I, without saying anything, kept reciting certain prayers and blowing on her every night, then one day she would embrace me, and that moment would be when the magic breaks. And that's exactly what I've been doing since the day I met you in the form of that Maulvi. The girl was stunned upon hearing all this. Then she said, "What did you say? That old Maulvi was you?" The man said, "Yes, that Maulvi was me." Tears welled up in the girl's eyes. She ran and hugged her husband once more. She said, "Forgive me. I couldn't recognize you." Her husband gently placed his hand on her head and said, "It wasn't your fault. This was all a secret that I couldn't tell you. But what you did, that shows the truth of your love. You are a good wife." Then smiling, he asked, "Now tell me, what did you think of that old Maulvi?" The girl laughed and said, "That old Maulvi was a very good man." The man laughed too, and just like that, a separated couple reunited after many years, a pure heart with pure intentions. No deception or magic can ever defeat it. Just like the old sage had said, before goodness and truth, all else falls short. Never judge someone just by their current state. Every face hides a story. The Maulvi the girl had once doubted turned out to be her lost husband. Never form an opinion about someone's behavior or condition without understanding them. Behind every hardship and trial lies a secret wisdom from the divine. Pain, sorrow, loneliness,